Hey everyone, Kunik here, back with another RPG horror story for you today. And I've got to say, I just got done chopping onions for my dinner, and I accidentally cut through the bad part of the onion, so I'm going to be in excruciating pain the entire time I try to read today's script. But I'm doing it because I love you all, so remember that. Anyhow, in today's story we have another instance of a DM ridiculously railroading his players. I won't say any more. So with that all said, let's roll for initiative and begin the story. I had a few brief horror moments in my experience with RPGs, but this is the most extensive, so it'll be a very long story. We had a group in which we rotate games and GM roles every campaign. So I played other 2 campaigns with this group, and they were really good. This story begins way before the campaign starts. The group is formed by me, the hippie, a really nice guy that just avoid every personal conflict, Mr. Precise, a precise and ordered guy, very gentle, avoid fight but not conflicts, and the GM. The GM wants to start a fantasy gritty campaign in the Viking era. Journey to Ragnarok module in D&D 5e. Really cool so far. He played D&D 3.5 before, but never read nor played 5e. Still suggested to play it as a GM. Me and Mr. Precise, we know 5e, started to point out some problems that may occur while using D&D to play this gritty campaign he was describing. We suggest he read the manual and rule out some spells or abilities that may automatically solve the problems he wants to put into the story. For example, you can create food for all the party with Goodberry spell. If he wants to play around hunger, he should modify or ban the spell. GM responds that you can take the spell, but if you do, you'll be incarcerated and forced to cast it every day to make food for the people. He asks what characters we want to play. I want to play a druid, Mr. Precise a wizard, and after we create them, he starts to ban some things. The only available race is human. You can only use the class specialty in the Journey to Ragnarok module. You can't use fire as a wizard, or other spells he thinks aren't right. He literally says this, so we don't know what he means by right. Wizards can't have a book. Writing doesn't exist in this world. Okay, so me and Mr. Precise stop modifying our characters at every new rule and ask him to make a full list of what is banned or modified. He responds that it will be too long to read everything and make a list. Days have passed. He hasn't read the manual yet. Mr. Precise still wants to play a wizard, and the GM suggests he can sew runes in his vest instead of having the book. Okay, cool. But he will have to find the rune corresponding to the spells to learn, and then roll a sew check, not Arcana. If he fails, he can't learn the spells until next level. They start to discuss this thing. Mr. Precise thinks is unfair, not really into a fight, and after a while the GM says he can't be the GM because we are too hostile for him. We just state the Italian saying, clear agreements lead to long friendships. But at least a problem is avoided, right? Aha, not so fast. GM changes his mind and brings new home rules to the table, like using swords wears out the edge. I ask if hammers have the same problem. GM responds that they don't have it, because hammers didn't exist in the Viking era. He corrects himself right after, saying that they exist, but only smiths have them, and are 10 times as expensive as a sword. What? After some discussion, GM cancels the house rules and just says that he can use whatever he wants in the campaign because he is the GM. We don't agree. Of course, the GM can create his world and modify rules before the campaign starts, but especially after all he is saying, we really like to use clear rules. At this point, the hippie, that has participated very little in this discussion, makes a long message that says that changing all the rules in this way is too much, and repeats to the GM that he should at least read the manual to start. Mr. Precise adds that changing random things really changes the balance of the game. GM ignores the hippie and tells that there is no balance, since the GM has all the power, and that he is changing everything to make the world more realistic and similar to the Viking Age. We explain what we meant by balance, but he doesn't listen. At this point, he was also mildly insulting us. He said we were polemical, always negative and talking nonsense. So I make a long post in which I say he is ridiculous for not listening to all of his 3 players. If he wants to GM properly, this is the first thing to do. Other players agree in this. He spits out some other insults and states that he will not be our GM. Nice. But wait, there's more. Mr. Precise and the GM keep fighting about changing the rules to accommodate to the setting. Basically, GM would change everything, while Mr. Precise suggested to change little things or simply not use a high fantasy game to play in a gritty world. I'm skipping a lot of other nonsense, but this is getting too long. At this point, the GM still hasn't read the manual, so I suggest to change the game, or if he doesn't want to leave us the task to remove all the things that can break the gritty game he is describing, or as a desperate move, remove all magic. It's really bad to remove magic from D&D, but this is what he was describing for days. A gritty world where people fear hunger and cold. How can we fear hunger and non-magical cold if we can sput out food and fire out of nothing, or create magical space with comfortable temperature? So GM finally decided. We will play, and I'm going to butcher this, Simbaroom, a D&D-like game with low magic, but with a Viking setting. Okay, finally he changed his mind. I read the Simbaroom manual. I don't like it very much, but whatever. GM asks what characters we want to do. Here we go again. Mr. Precise asks if he can make a necromancer, which is a school of magic exactly like the others in the game. GM says he can do it, but if he did it, he is an NPC. Why? We explain that a necromancer is basically a wizard and doesn't have to be evil. The GM responds, his spell sucks because they kill friends. In reality, there is one necromancer spell that targets all living creatures nearby, but he can just use it in the right moment or simply take other spells. GM continues to make home rules and change things up as for D&D, but you get the idea. I don't want to repat too much, so I skip to the best parts. After I make my character, some sort of paladin, he tries to modify my abilities distribution, my powers choice, my background. Not because it didn't fit the setting, he just wants to make my character one-eyed. Maybe to resemble Odin, I don't know. Even the picture I want to use for my ducking character name, Gorm, because it wasn't Viking enough. I literally searched on Google Viking names, as he suggested, and chose from them. I discussed some things with him, trying to accommodate what he is looking for, but I just refused to agree with the nonsense. At this point you may ask, why do you still want to play with a GM like that? Well, this is thrilling to me. How will this end? So the campaign starts. When we roleplay between characters is really exceptional, but even the parts with the GM are pretty nice. The problem is that in combat, he continuously gives us malice for our actions and tries to defeat us by cheating, using narration he said, but never killed us. The worst part was that every event occurred in an awful railroad. Whatever you do, the most predictable thing always happens. We played the first sessions using a draw program with the GM sharing his desktop. We switched to Roll20 later, and at some point he alt-tabbed and showed us some of the notes by mistake. It was a graph formed by 9 or 10 hexagonal boxes and arrows like this. Encounter with the NPC. Go to the woods. Wolf attack injures the NPC. Return to the village, other NPC punishes them for leaving first NPC there. I read only the first boxes, understood what it was, and stopped. But everything I read happened. I lasted 5 sessions. The first thing was an encounter with an invincible NPC that healed more damage per turn than we can possibly deal, in which I just tried to die in an old-fashioned Viking way before leaving the campaign. But apparently this wasn't in his plan, so I didn't die. So I write a message in the group telling them that this is not my style of playing. I'm not having fun, so I'm stopping. The GM insults me one more time, said he should have never accepted me as a player. I was contacted by Mr. Precise on a roleplay website and asked to join the group, and kicked me from the group chat before the other players could answer me. The best insult was toward my character that, to his words, was a panettone schifoso, disgusting panettone. Again, I probably butchered those words. Today, I don't even know what this means. My character was basically a noble Viking warrior with some heals and divine protections. Other players answer me privately telling me they understand me, but will continue playing mainly because he is a friend. End post. It's a real shame that they're going to continue playing with him as such a terrible DM. Like, look, I understand he's a friend, but if he's actively not improving and not willing to listen, sometimes, keep your friend as a friend, but don't play D&D or tabletop games with them. It won't work out too well. But hey, this is not a relationship channel, friends or otherwise, so I don't want to get too much into that. What I will say is this. Yes, you as the DM are the ruler of the world that you are creating. You can make any decision that you want. However, you can't wait for your players to make a choice and then finagle on that and say, no, you can't do that. That, from a player perspective, is going to sound terrible. And just to be clear here, I'm not saying like the player wants to jump off of a tower and fly without, having a proper spell or anything for that, right? That's just the player being stupid. If the player's trying to take a spell and you say, no, you can't take that spell after they try to take it, you have to clarify what is banned before you go into your campaign, because otherwise it just creates a terrible player experience. And really the point of D&D is to have a fun player and DM experience. It's a one and the same type of thing. One player, one DM cannot be having all of the fun while the players just suffer in the end. It creates just such a weird dynamic. So yeah, if you're going to lock in and put restrictions on your players, nail that stuff out before the campaign even begins, and no matter how long your list is, provide it to the players so that they know what they're getting into. And if they know what they're getting into and still sign up for that, then cool, they're probably going to enjoy whatever you have planned for them. But that's just my 2 cents. So with that all said, as always, the source of the video is in the description below, and if you liked the video and you want to see more videos just like this, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification icon in order to be notified of my future videos. And as about 80% of you watching are not subscribed, it would be doing me a huge favor for you to do so in order to help keep the channel growing. Anyhow, while you wait for my future videos, here are a few related videos that you can watch from my channel in the meantime.